world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
What's up, guys? Hello. Okay, this is actually my first time doing a live on YouTube, just like from my phone in my car. I just had stuff on my brain and I just needed to talk about it, and I obviously couldn't wait for tomorrow's podcast because I'm still sort of working through it. And I wouldn't say try my ideas out, but as I'm starting to learn things, obviously the first person I always talk to is my husband, and I feel like he's the more like rational side of my brain. But anyways, I was saying to my husband, you know, one of the things that's so crazy to me is that for all of these women, you know, and it's a heartbreaking thing to go through. I'm like, why did nothing come online? Like when the doctors were saying it's going to be totally fine if you put this copper device in you for 20 years, there's going to be no side effects. Like at what point does something in the back of your head, or your gut rather, say, yeah, I don't really believe that. I just don't really believe that. And I've always been like that. Like with birth control, I was instantly skeptical. I've always been skeptical because some stuff just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's actually funny because I was watching this clip of Tristan and Andrew Tate. Actually, it was just Andrew. And he was making fun of all of the experts who told people to get the shot. And he like showed a montage of it. And he was like, so how did people like me, person who came from nothing, know not to get the shot? Like same for me. Like how did a person like me know that everything they were pushing was going to be problematic in the end, which it ended up being? They lied, obviously, and they all had to admit it as a mea culpa. Yeah, we said that it was going to stop the spread. No, actually it doesn't. Oh, we said it didn't have these side effects. Okay, actually it does. So why does it, for some people, that is like, it's common sense, and yet for other people, they need to hear it from an authority before they trust it. Like they will step aside their own gut because they need to hear it from an authority first. And so we were talking about this, and I said to my husband, and then a second thing happened. You know, I'm on that app, Connect, and you can basically pay if you want to talk to me directly. And a woman messaged me about the flat earth theory, which I had never looked into. And she sent me all these links, and she's like, you need to look into this, blah, blah, blah. And it's antithetical to the Bible and all of this stuff. And I saved the links, and I was like, I'm going to watch this later. And my husband was like, why even bother looking into this? And I'm like, because I'm just genuinely, I'm a curious person. So if someone thinks anything, I have to read it and know what they believe, because faith is what drives people ultimately. But then when I said to him, I said to him, because I don't know if the earth is round or flat or an octagon or anything. Science is obviously a faith. And it's gotten so tricky that people don't appreciate that. They don't realize that they are the most faithful people ever. They think they're atheists. They think that they don't have a faith. They don't go to church. What are you talking about? You attend the Church of Science every single day. You do. You think it's crazy that people believe in the Lord Jesus Christ as our Savior? Bro, you believe a random doctor telling you to put a device in your body for 20 years and thinking that there's going to be zero effects. That's a faith. Like, that is a faith, homie. Like, and I've realized that. I said to my husband, I'm like, science is a faith. And so he said to me, going back on this, he's like, yeah, he's like, with like, you know, the earth. And he started talking about, you know, my husband's got a science brain. I will say he's so much more brilliant than me. But he was saying to me something about the curvature and planes. And I said, listen, all I know is that in the same way that you're explaining it to me, and by the way, again, I don't believe in flat earth. I'm just saying that until I perceive something with my own eyes, it's a faith. You're telling me one person saying this, one person saying the other. It's a faith until I can perceive something with my own eyes, or if I can get it from the Bible. And so I was saying to him, I was like, in the same way that you're explaining to me technologically, scientifically, how the earth is round, I said 40 years from now, you're going to have kids saying this about transgenderism. They're going to be like, well, you know, the X's and the Y's and the chromosomes, they're already doing it now. But I mean, like 40 years from now, it's going to be a settled science. Another word for us, a settled faith, because again, they use the word science to make you think that it's rational when it's so obviously irrational, but we somehow associate science with rationality, and you don't realize that it's a faith. I mean, what is it when you look at the abortion rates? And this really got me, my head was spinning about this because of the debate that I hosted between Dave Smith and Ami, when Ami was sort of trying to imply that Bibi Netanyahu, they weren't murdering kids in Gaza. And Dave Smith was like, no, it's murder. Like, for some reason, people believe that when technology is involved, it's not murder. And you look at the abortion stuff, and you look at the barbaric nature of the Aztecs, and they were literally sacrificing children for rain. And now we have people sacrificing children, like literally their own children, for money, success, their future. That's a faith, homie. Like, that's a faith. Like, you are still doing the same exact thing, and it's because you've been put into a classroom and taught that your faith is actually a science, that your faith is rational. When you look in the eyes of these women that are defending abortion, and they're screaming and they're screeching and they're outside of, a Brett Kavanaugh hearing, with their Me Too shirts, you don't think those women are being moved by faith? The question is, what is their faith? I would argue it's the synagogue of Satan. Like, it is about death. It's about destruction. It's about, once upon a time, people worshipped the fertility god. Now it's the unfertility god. It's a form of paganism. Everything that science tells us is harming us. It's literally harming us. And yet people still trust the science. It's amazing to me. And I'm like so off the science train. I'm like, nope, I left that faith and that book Chaos that I have been standing for a very long time. When it was talking, because I had always thought the moon landing, so it was one of those things I was like, that just sounds really dumb. Like, honestly, that's how I trust my gut. I think your gut is divine. Your gut comes from God, and everything else is trying to disrupt your gut. But anyways, that book Chaos, I was like, forget it. I will never, don't even get me started. The moon landings didn't happen. I don't care if you agree with me or not. It just didn't. The moon landing is like the Easter bunny for adults. And people grew up with their little NASA dolls and they're attached to it and they need to believe it happened because they needed to believe in America greatness. And no, it didn't happen. But anyway, so I was thinking, why tell these lies? And a lot of times people would say, do you know how many people it would take to coordinate a lie that big? Clearly not many, because that was the world before technology, before smartphones, before independent voices, 1969. This is the world with all of that, and still people believe everything about COVID. I mean, people were walking 6 feet social distance, mask on their face, double mask on their face. You think those people are atheists? No, they are the most faithful to the Church of Science. They are the most faithful to the Church of Satan. Like, they are, forget it. They're like, this is it. Whatever my media person tells me to do, I'm going to trust because I believe in the science. But the science is now a faith, and it's killing people. I mean, it's killing people. I think the first thing it disrupts is your gut. And so when I think now about, like, I ate the other day at a fast food place, and when I tell you, because I have been eating so well, I realized we're not even eating food anymore. Like, I was like, I can't even believe I used to eat this all the time. It's so disgusting. This is so clearly not food. The chemicals in our food are disrupting our gut. Everything is about disrupting our gut. Like the hormone pills, they have kids on birth control from the time that they're 14 years old. As soon as women menstruate, they throw them on birth control pills, tell them it's going to help things, and they are never even allowed a chance to really know themselves, like to know their divine self, rather, which is to know God. And so I just look around the world and I just think, like, I don't know, science is a faith. It is literally a faith, and it's mixed with psychology, which to me is another form of sorcery, where, like, even when your gut comes online, you're like, wait, that sounds really stupid, actually, that, like, I should be 6 feet apart from someone in the grocery store and have had. Then the psychology comes in as the second form of sorcery, and they're just sort of like going, oh, no. Like, you're the crazy person. Like, if you don't believe, if you don't trust the science, which is to say, if you don't trust these demigods that we've created, if you don't trust these people that are handing you packets and telling you you're going to be perfectly fine, then, you're the crazy person. Anyways, I'm just ranting at you guys, but this was the casual discussion I had with my husband before bed last night. And the reason why I named this Sunday sermon is because this is how God is. We had this discussion, and I kid you not, our priest today got up and gave a sermon on technology, how people are worshiping technology. And he gave the example of the guy, his name is Brian, I can't think of his last name, but I'm sure you saw his story trending, where he basically, hired a team of scientists and doctors that are going to keep him alive forever. He's trying to reverse his age, and he believes that humanity, that it is possible to live forever. And so every single day he sticks to this unbelievably strict diet regimen, and they run tests on him every single day. He even takes his younger son's blood, and he's like, I've reversed my age by 10 years. And I just look at that and I go, this man is so demonic. He has been fully possessed by the spirit of science, of the faith of science. And he wants to prolong his time on this earth. He believes he can because he believes in the God of science. And yeah, it was just interesting because then the sermon was on that, and I was like, this is my point. It's all about making people believe that they don't have a religion when they have the ultimate religion. Yeah, so I'm just saying Christians definitely look around today, and it's just crazy that people are like, oh, how could people believe in a higher power? I'm like, you believe in a higher power, and it is called government and science.
Similar to how heliocentric pseudoscientists have changed the very definition of the word level to mean curved, they have also done the same thing with the words up and down. Everyone intuitively knows and can readily demonstrate which way is up and which is down, just by pointing one finger to the sky and one to the ground. But globe defenders take umbrage with this simple meaning and insist otherwise. They claim the sky is not always up. On their model, the sky is all around their globe, so there's always sky beside you, and sky below you as well. Similarly, on their model, the stars aren't all above us. Instead, stars are all around us, with just as many stars beside or below us as there are above. Merriam-Webster defines up as being toward a higher position or place, but then further specifies, especially away from the center of the earth. Likewise, down is defined as toward or in a lower physical position, i.e., especially toward the center of the earth. These caveats about being toward or away from the center of the earth are necessary additions for life on a globe. The masses have been taught and now believe that up and down are simply subjective terms, so what is up for one person can be down for another. What is up for someone at the North Pole is down for someone else at the South Pole, and what is down for a third party at the equator isn't up or down, but perpendicular sideways for the people at the poles. This is why Australia has long been dubbed the land down under, because the masses are taught and now believe that places like Australia on the southern hemisphere of their globe Earth are physically upside down with respect to places like Europe in the northern hemisphere. That sentence will trigger knee-jerk rejection, however, because they have also been taught and now believe that since everything is subjective, that upside down doesn't exist. On the globe, everything and everyone is always right side up, and they won't hear otherwise. Above us, the sky is filled with an opposing density gradient of progressively lighter and lighter gases continuing upwards for 20 plus miles, which is the farthest balloons can reach before popping. On our Earth plane, down is the direction of density, and up is the direction of lightness. The ground will always be down, whereas the sky and luminaries will always be up, circling over and around us, unlike in the globe model, where the sky and luminaries are allegedly all around us. In reality, though, you have never and will never see sky or luminaries below you. Rain always falls down from the same direction above, and people standing in Antarctica are not upside down relative to those at the North Pole.
My poor husband, he rolls over, he's like, what are you reading? And I feel like a regular wife says something, I don't know, maybe a love series, Nora Roberts, sweeping her away. Me, on the other hand, he rolled over, he asked me, and I said, oh, I'm reading a flat earth theory. And it dawned into an entire conversation. He's like, why are you reading a flat earth theory? And I'm like, because somebody messaged me on Manect about it, and they included some links, and I'm just reading them. I don't know, I'm just an interested person. No matter what, if there's a bunch of people that believe something, I now want to know what it is that they believe. And of course, he pushed me on this, and he was talking about the earth curvature and science. And I said to him, listen, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. Actually, what I am is I am somebody who has left the cult of science. I have left the mega church of science, because what I have now realized is that science, what it is actually, think about it, is a pagan faith.
It cannot be overstated or overemphasized. The most important thing to realize, and most obvious way to know you are not spinning on a ball, is your own common sense and lived experience. You have always and will always experience yourself as living right side up on a motionless Earth, with the sun, moon, and stars revolving over and around you. This is common sense, and what everyone in the world personally experiences every day of their lives. We are taught to believe otherwise, however, many things completely contrary to our own common sense and experience from a very early age. We are told that people living down under the spinning ball Earth in Australia are actually living upside down relative to those residing in the northern hemisphere, while an invisible force strong enough to hold people, buildings, and oceans stuck to the underside of a rapidly rotating ball, but weak enough to allow birds, bugs, and planes to take off and fly with ease, keeps Earth's atmosphere spinning in perfect balance and holds everyone firmly to the surface without crushing us. We can clearly see that the horizon is horizontal, but we are told it curves. We can feel that the Earth under our feet is motionless, but we are told it moves. We can observe the luminaries revolving around us, but we are told it is us that revolves. It is obvious that stars are stars, but we are told that stars are suns. We can see the sun is bigger than the stars, but we are told stars are bigger than the sun. We can see the sun and moon are the same size, but we are told the sun is 400 times larger. It is obvious that up is up and down is down, but we are told there is no such thing. As stated by Flat Earth author David Wardlaw Scott, with the modern astronomer, there is theoretically neither up nor down, though his experience belies his assertion every time he looks up to the heavens or down to the ground.
And I've realized that I've been thinking deeply about this pagan cult that we exist in. It is backed by a false science deity. That is what it is. It is the science. Oh, this is the new God. And it is incredible to see the ways in which people worship this deity, right? Climate change. Unbelievable. People skipping school, people crying, convinced these students that the world's going to be over in 10 years, despite all of the evidence that this lobby has lied to them repeatedly over decades. They still believe it because it's not a science, it's a faith. Vaccines. I was legitimately raised to believe that my children would die unless I offered to the God of science their bodies. So they could just get jabs on jabs. What is it, like 74 jabs now that children have to get from the time they're born until they graduate high school? And then I decided I wasn't going to do any of that. And I have the healthiest kids in the entire world, 3 of them. So yeah, I did not sacrifice my children to that deity. I still get called names for it, and I don't care. Abortion. Yep, I remember that one. I remember when the science god, the science deity, told me in school that it was a clump of cells. The science was in, it's a clump of cells. So for the first 12 weeks, it doesn't count. And by the way, you should sacrifice your offspring, just like the Aztecs did for rain. You should sacrifice your offspring so that it rains money in your life. Think about your future. Think about how much more money you will have if you don't have a child. And people do it for their careers. And then when my husband and I were in that conversation and he started speaking to me about, the Earth curvature and all of that stuff, what I offered back to him, not because I believe in flat Earth, but just because I disbelieve the notion that science is ever settled. I said to him, I can imagine 60 years from now where there will be a couple sitting in bed and there will be someone explaining to them how the science proves that transgenderism is real. Because it's happening right now. That is another pillar of the pagan faith that has been established. And now you have corporations requiring people to say Happy Pride on the way out in June because they understand that psychology is a part of the game, and they will make up the science. They will find the science so that you learn in school how educated you are when you hold these specific positions. And don't even get me started on history. Don't even get me started on history. Lie upon lie upon lie. I think the thing that broke me historically was learning about what they did, what we did, the Allies, to the Germans. Unimaginable that all we're learning about is the Holocaust, and then we allowed what happened to 12 million Germans thereafter who were put into concentration camps, tortured, raped, had their children killed. and we believe that we are the good guys or something like that. And so now I ask this question to myself. Literally, why was I put into public school? Why are we all put into public school? And the answer is obvious. To be programmed, to be indoctrinated, to be baptized into this pagan faith. This is why the longer people stay in school, it seems the dumber they become. And the more committed they also become to this church of humanism, because that's ultimately what it is. They place their faith in humans, while at the same time bizarrely mocking Christians. It just keeps turning out that if you follow the Bible, if you believe in biblical scripture, your life gets better and better and better. But no, they place their faith in something else that they can't quite explain, but they trust implicitly. Their faith is in the CDC, the FDA, the LGBTQIA, the IPCC, the CIA, the FBI, and even in the face of overwhelming evidence that they're being lied to, that their children and their families are becoming sicker both mentally and physically, the society around them is in full decline, they still keep the faith. They keep the faith. And they continue to mock the Christians because how backwards, how archaic is the Bible? The Bible is crazy. But check out my textbook on gender theory. I'm so smart. Just food for thought, people. Really think about that. Think about whether or not you were pledged into a faith unwittingly, because I think we all were, just a little bit. Sharing with you one of the many, many flat earth manects that I've received since I did the live the other day. And again, I'm not subscribing to the flat earth theory at all. I just decided to read an article on it because why not? This person writes, "Hey, Candace, I heard you mention flat earth on your live today and I had to reach out. Please, I'm imploring you to continue down the flat earth rabbit hole because it's true. NASA has lied to us about the shape of our world, plain and simple. I believe the main reason being to separate us from God because nobody would be able to deny him if people knew that we actually live in a place that necessitates the existence of a creator. Once you look, you will see that all of the evidence points to the earth being flat. The biggest indicators, in my mind, being the fact that we can see objects at a distance that should be hidden behind hundreds of feet by the curve of the earth. The fact that all modern technology assumes the earth is a flat topographical plane to function, airplanes, GPS, and the truly hilarious footage and abject lack of proof that we actually went to the moon. Reach out to YouTubers that have done the research for more information." And he offers some YouTubers. Thanks. Here's what I will say to you. I definitely believe the moon landing was faked. I had no coming back for me after reading Chaos and reading something else called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. It just, I don't know, it's always seemed cartoonish to me. But then when you realize the government was up to in the 60s and how they were focused on creating a mass psychosis by large events, like seeing how people would react to a trauma like the Manson murders, or even something which you wouldn't say is a trauma, but it leaves a huge impression upon you. Like, you know, going to the moon, everybody crowded around, watching it on a television. Like I say, Chaos is required reading for every single person that listens to this podcast. You absolutely must read that book because you have to comprehend how sinister, how evil, and how satanic a government is. You have to accept that reality. And don't worry, it doesn't make you sad, it doesn't make you pessimistic, because I'm optimistic. I'm a Christian. I know Christ is King. I know that in the end we win. The end.
Whether in a bucket, bathtub, pond, lake, or an ocean, the surface of water at rest always remains flat and doesn't have the ability to show convexity or any shape whatsoever upon its surface. This fact is easily demonstrable and empirically verifiable, but completely at odds with what we are told about the globe. For Earth to be globular and over 70% covered in water, the oceans must be somehow curving around and sticking to all sides of a rapidly spinning ball suspended in space. It is simply impossible to make water behave this way. As anyone can experiment for themselves, bodies of water will not stick to the underside of a ball and cannot show convexity or any other shape upon their surface.
Uh-oh, ladies and gentlemen, I am in trouble again. Why am I always in trouble? I'm trending on Twitter for saying something unsayable. Look at this #1 trend. It reads, "Candace Owens rejects Earth theories, faces backlash." How am I ever going to survive this? But also I have to admit that that trend is kind of cool because I'm trending under science, and that is a first. The origins of NASA are satanic. And I went, what are you talking about? And OMG, you guys, buckle up. What I'm about to tell you, you're not even going to believe me, but you can just research this. You don't even have to go down a dark hole on Reddit. You can just literally open Wikipedia. It is so in our faces, and yet we don't learn about this. And now I understand why they are very upset with me. So you may have heard of a man named Aleister Crowley, who routinely practiced sex rituals. He believed in masochistic and sadistic sex, believed in free love, and he was very much connected to the elite in America. He was just openly publishing articles for Vanity Fair because he was best friends with their editor, and many of the elite in our society were his followers and believers. A Satanist. This is a fact. You can look this up. One such follower was a man named Jack Parsons, another wealthy young man. And here's what you should know about this time period. Before Jack Parsons enters the scene in America, the scientific consensus was that we would never enter space, that was an impossibility. But this rich kid, who also happens to be an occultist and who also would perform sex rituals and blood sacrifice to summon demons, well, no, he expressed the belief that they could fundamentally alter humanity, and he had a vision. He said, no, we can make this work. We can get to space. Check out this article. Again, this is published. You can look this up yourself. Here's the headline: Sex, Rocket Science, and Satanism. Meet NASA's real hidden figures. And I'm going to read you directly from this article because it's so unbelievable. My jaw was on the floor. I'm skimming through it because it's way too long. It would make this show forever, but we will link it, and you absolutely must read it. It reads, quote, Jack Parsons is barely acknowledged on NASA's website, and he's the man who made rockets a reality and co-founded the agency's Jet Propulsion Lab, JPL, home to missions which paved the way for the Apollo programs and continue to explore Mars and outer space today.
Enough as we marvel on this view from the upper stage camera. This will be humanity's last view of the James Webb Space Telescope as it moves to its workplace about 1 million miles away from Earth.
Yes, you're right, Rob. Impressive, fantastic pictures. Yeah.
Now we'll be hearing shortly from the mission operations manager at the Space Telescope Science Institute, Carl Starr.
Are you serious? Now that I've shared with you what I've discovered, are you seriously not going to stop and think about it all for a moment? When you are told you are something you're not and you believe it, you are living somewhere you aren't and you believe it, you are flying, spinning when you aren't and you believe it, you can be told anything after and you will not disbelieve it, resulting in now believing you are a monkey's uncle, living on a spinning ball, rocketing through endless space. Sounds crazy, but that's what we've all been led to believe.
This is what you believe? Are you serious? Do you accept that? Do you accept that?